Hello and welcome to Investment Insight. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Now let's break down what's happening in the markets today in a clear and simple way. I want you to imagine drawing up the blueprints for this custom, $500 billion mega mansion.
That is a massive amount of money for a house.
Right. I mean, you've picked out the land, you're ready to pour the concrete, and you are fully prepared to just own this massive estate. But then almost overnight, you just tear the blueprints up.
You just decide you don't actually want to own anything at all.
Exactly. Instead, you just want an exclusive VIP black card that lets you rent luxury penthouses all over the world exactly when you need them.
Well, it sounds like a sudden crisis of confidence when you frame it that way. But when you look at the data, it's actually one of the most calculated financial maneuvers we've seen in modern tech history.
And that is our mission for this deep dive today. We are looking at OpenAI and specifically their massive artificial intelligence infrastructure project known as Stargate.
Yeah, Stargate has been the big talk of the industry for a while now.
It really has. For a long time, the dominant narrative was that Stargate was that $500 billion mega mansion. OpenAI was going to build and own a global empire of giant data centers. But based on recent reports as of May 2026, their entire philosophy regarding real estate and computing power is totally transforming.
We really need to unpack this carefully because when you are sitting at home looking at your investment portfolio, a shift of this magnitude sends ripples to the entire economy.
Yeah, it's huge.
So we're going to separate the confirmed facts from the market rumors. We need to understand why the most important AI company in the world is fundamentally changing how it builds the future.
Let's start with the biggest misconception floating around out there. Because, if I see a company suddenly back away from owning their buildings and pivot to renting, my immediate thought is, are they running out of money? Or is the demand for AI finally drying up?
It's a really natural conclusion to jump to, honestly. But the data points to something entirely different. Stargate isn't failing. The demand is absolutely still there.
Okay, so they still need the power.
Oh, without a doubt. In fact, according to OpenAI's official post on April 29th, their target of securing 10 gigawatts of power in the U.S. by 2029 has already been officially surpassed.
Wait, early?
Yes, well ahead of schedule.
Let's just pause on that number for a second because 10 gigawatts sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
For context, 1 gigawatt of power is roughly enough to run a mid-sized city.
It is an unbelievable amount of electricity.
Right. It's about the output of a massive nuclear reactor. So they are securing the power equivalent of 10 nuclear reactors just to keep their AI running. That really doesn't sound like a company scaling back.
It doesn't, right. They're pushing forward aggressively. But their April 29th statement outlined a new core philosophy. They stated the goal is, and I quote, capacity coming online at scale, on time, and in a way that preserves flexibility.
Okay, preserves flexibility.
Yeah, they are moving away from a fixed joint venture ownership model where they basically own the buildings, and they're adopting a flexible, multi-partner, tenant-centric model.
That feels like corporate speak for, we don't want to be tied down to a mortgage. If they need the power of 10 cities, why not own the power plants and the data centers? Why rent?
It comes down to a fundamental business concept called capital expenditure, or CapEx.
CapEx, okay.
Yeah, so CapEx is the heavy upfront money a company spends to buy physical assets. Buying land, negotiating with local utilities, laying miles of fiber optic cables.
Fronting the cash for all the hard stuff?
Exactly. Pouring specialized reinforced concrete to hold thousands of pounds of servers. All of that is CapEx. When you own those assets, that massive financial risk sits squarely on your own balance sheet.
So if I buy a $500 billion data center, I'm just stuck with it.
You are. And here is the hidden danger: technology in the AI space is evolving at a breakneck pace. What happens if, in 2 years, a new AI chip is invented that runs so hot it requires entirely different liquid cooling systems?
Oh, wow. Or a completely different physical layout.
Right. If you own the building, your concrete is instantly obsolete. By shifting from being a landlord to an agile tenant, OpenAI is pushing that extreme CapEx risk onto their partners. They avoid the trap of going bankrupt, holding outdated real estate.
I see. It's like buying a massive state-of-the-art DVD manufacturing plant right before streaming takes over the world.
That is a great way to look at it.
You just end up owning a very expensive, very useless building.
That captures the risk perfectly. The physical infrastructure trap is incredibly dangerous when the underlying technology is a moving target.
But this brings up an interesting tension, Why the sudden urgency to shift to this renter's model right now? I'm looking at the massive demand you mentioned, but it feels like there's a disconnect between the hype and the actual cash flow of the business.
You are touching on the absolute core friction in the AI industry today. There's a growing and frankly concerning gap between user demand and actual monetization.
So people want it, but the money isn't matching up.
Exactly. The demand is sky high, but the speed at which they can turn that demand into profit is lagging. Based on an April 28th Reuters report, OpenAI actually missed some of its monthly revenue and user targets this year.
I really have a hard time wrapping my head around that. I mean, everyone is using these AI tools for everything from writing emails to coding software. How on earth are they missing revenue targets?
Because of the staggering cost to run the system every single time someone asks it a question, the Reuters report noted that OpenAI's CFO, Sarah Fryer, internally raised concerns about this.
The CFO is getting nervous.
Very nervous.
Yeah.
If revenue doesn't grow fast enough, the company could struggle to afford the massive, long-term computing contracts required just to keep the lights on.
Okay, let's try to visualize this. It's like a highly anticipated restaurant that opens up downtown, right? There's a line stretching around the block.
Massive demand.
Exactly. As the owner, you're thrilled. But once the customers sit down, they are only ordering tap water and maybe like a cheap side salad. They aren't ordering the expensive steak dinners. But you still have to pay the massive electric bill to keep your industrial kitchen running at full capacity to serve all those people.
I love that restaurant analogy. Let's
Yeah.
actually take it a step
Yeah.
further. It's not just the electric bill that's killing you. It's the fact that to cook those steaks, you bought ovens that cost a fortune, and those ovens might need to be replaced in 2 years.
Oh man, that is brutal.
In the AI world, the retail consumers paying $20 a month are the ones ordering tap water. The enterprise clients, the massive corporations integrating AI into their entire workflow, those are the steak dinners.
And enterprise clients move slowly, don't they? They have security reviews, compliance checks, and legal hurdles before they sign a massive contract.
Right, so OpenAI is stuck serving millions of retail customers at a high compute cost while waiting for the massive enterprise contracts to fully materialize. That math is what makes the CFO nervous.
So you do not want a $500 billion mortgage on that restaurant if the steak orders are delayed.
Exactly. You want the flexibility to lease a different space or adjust your overhead without defaulting on a massive loan.
And it's not just the financial math that's getting complicated either. The physical reality of pouring that concrete is hitting a wall. I was looking at a Reuters report from April 9th, and it noted that the Stargate UK project was temporarily paused.
Yes, the physical realities are proving to be a pretty harsh wake-up call. The reasons cited for the UK pause were the strict regulatory environments and incredibly high energy costs in that region.
So it's not just about the tech.
Not at all. Building a facility that requires a gigawatt of power is a massive political and environmental negotiation.
I did see some chatter on financial forums about a similar project in Norway getting canceled or paused. Is that part of the same trend?
We have to be very careful with online chatter. While the pause in the UK is confirmed by primary sources, any pause in Norway is currently unconfirmed by the data.
Okay, so just a rumor then.
Yes, it is strictly a market rumor right now. We need to stick to the verified facts. But the verified UK situation alone proves the broader point dealing with physical real estate, local power grids, and international regulations is messy. It just bogs you down.
Okay, so OpenAI wants to stay agile, avoid the regulatory headaches of building, and just rent their space. But here is where it gets really interesting for the broader market. If OpenAI is pivoting to this flexible rent anywhere model, how does that impact the tech giants who supply the cloud space?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because for years it felt like OpenAI and Microsoft were locked in this exclusive business marriage.
They were very closely tied, but that dynamic is structurally shifting now. According to a Reuters report on April 27th, Microsoft and OpenAI amended their contract.
So things change.
Big time. Microsoft officially lost its exclusive status. OpenAI is now free to work with Amazon, Google, Oracle, and others.
Wait, if I'm Microsoft, I just invested billions into this company, and now they're opening up the relationship to date my biggest competitors. Doesn't that make Microsoft the obvious loser in this pivot?
It definitely looks like a loss on the surface, but if we look at the mechanics of the tech ecosystem, Microsoft isn't losing. The risk is just being distributed.
How so?
Well, while they lost the exclusive label, the data shows Microsoft remains the primary cloud partner until 2032. What we are witnessing is the breakup of a monopoly in favor of an ecosystem game.
How does an ecosystem game work in practice when hundreds of billions of dollars are on the line?
Let's look at Oracle as a prime example here. Oracle is a massive pillar in this new infrastructure strategy. Back in July of 2025, there was a major announcement confirming a 5-year, $300 billion plus deal for Oracle to provide 4.5 gigawatts of capacity to OpenAI.
Wow. $300 billion just to rent capacity? That scale is almost impossible to grasp.
It is massive. But pay attention to what happened next. There was a specific expansion planned in Abilene, Texas. It was designed to be a massive facility for OpenAI.
Okay.
However, due to shifts in demand and financing negotiations, the data shows that the Abilene project was dropped for OpenAI's specific use.
Wait, so a massive multi-billion-dollar data center project in Texas just gets abandoned?
Not abandoned, repurposed. And this is the genius of the ecosystem model. According to a Reuters report from March, Microsoft stepped right in and leased that exact same Abilene project instead.
Oh, wow. That actually makes total sense. So OpenAI realizes they don't want the risk of the Texas site. They drop it, and their primary partner, Microsoft, swoops in to take the lease. But why would Microsoft want it if OpenAI didn't?
Because Microsoft has a massive, diversified cloud business that goes far beyond cutting-edge AI. Microsoft has thousands of traditional enterprise clients like banks, retail chains, hospitals.
Right, normal businesses.
Exactly. And they just need standard cloud servers to run their HR software or host their websites. They don't need the bleeding-edge, liquid-cooled supercomputers. So Microsoft can absorb that standard data center risk easily, taking the pressure off OpenAI. Multiple partners share the load.
That is fascinating. It acts like a shock absorber for the whole industry. But let's talk about what actually goes inside these rented buildings. We keep throwing around these astronomical numbers, a $300 billion Oracle deal, $500 billion total infrastructure plans.
The numbers are dizzying.
Yeah, and if they aren't spending that money on buying land and pouring concrete, what exactly costs hundreds of billions of dollars to put inside a rented warehouse?
The hardware.
Yeah.
Specifically, the next generation chips that actually perform the artificial intelligence computation. On February 27th, OpenAI announced they had secured 3 gigawatts of dedicated inference capacity and 2 gigawatts of Vera Rubin-based training capacity via NVIDIA.
Okay, let's translate some of that for anyone who isn't a computer engineer. First, what is the difference between inference capacity and training capacity? Like, why are they split up like that?
It's a really great question. Think of training as sending the AI to college. You are feeding it the entire internet, teaching it how to think, how to recognize patterns, and how to write.
So it's learning.
Yes, and it requires massive, sustained bursts of raw computing power over months. Inference, on the other hand, is the AI taking the final exam.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, it's the moment you type a question into the app, and it generates an answer in 3 seconds. Inference requires fast, highly responsive chips deployed all over the world, close to the users.
So they need two completely different types of computing setups. And you mentioned Vera Rubin. I see that name popping up everywhere in financial news. What makes a Vera Rubin system so critical that companies are altering their entire real estate strategy just to house it?
So Vera Rubin is the code name for NVIDIA's absolute bleeding-edge, next-generation AI chip architecture. These chips are exponentially faster, but they also draw massive amounts of power and require highly specialized environments to run.
You know, it reminds me of the airline industry. If you think about an airline, their goal is just to fly passengers from point A to point B.
Right.
When a manufacturer comes out with a revolutionary new fleet of supersonic jets, the airline doesn't go out and try to buy the airports.
Exactly. They just want to lease the gates at the airport.
Right. They direct all their capital into buying those new supersonic jets because that's what gives them an edge over their competitors. In this scenario, the Vera Rubin chips are the supersonic jets. OpenAI realized they were about to spend all their money buying the concrete airport when what they really need is the capital to buy the absolute best planes in the sky.
That is spot on. And securing those specific chips requires a massive war chest of capital. The numbers we are seeing are just unprecedented. On February 27th, a $110 billion investment plan was revealed.
That is just wild.
It is. That broke down to $30 billion from SoftBank, $30 billion from NVIDIA themselves, and $50 billion from Amazon. Then, just over a month later, on March 31st, OpenAI announced an additional $122 billion in funding.
Another $122 billion.
Yep. In addition to that, Broadcom is collaborating with them on 10 gigawatts of custom AI accelerators.
I mean, 110 million, then another 122 billion. When you look at your investment apps and see those numbers, it's easy to wonder if we are in a massive bubble. And honestly, it just gets confusing. I saw a headline circulating recently claiming there was an additional single $1 trillion mega partnership with AMD and CoreWeave. Is that part of this hardware reality?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because navigating financial media right now requires strict discipline. As an investor, you must ignore those wild rumors of a bundled $1 trillion partnership with AMD and CoreWeave.
That's just noise.
It is total noise. The verified data and official primary sources absolutely do not support those specific bundled numbers. There is enough real money flowing hundreds of billions of dollars that we don't need to entertain the unconfirmed trillion-dollar rumors.
Got it.
The reality is that the capital is distributed across a massive web of verified partnerships with NVIDIA, Amazon, SoftBank, and Broadcom.
Which brings us to the most important part of this deep dive. If you are sitting at home right now trying to make sense of all these gigawatts, chip architectures, and billion-dollar funding rounds, what is the bottom line? How should an everyday investor view this massive pivot?
The bottom line is that the AI infrastructure boom is maturing. We are exiting the blank check era of AI, and we are entering a phase of realistic capital discipline.
Meaning companies can't just announce a mega project and watch their stocks soar anymore. They actually have to prove the math works.
Precisely. The winners over the next 3 to 5 years aren't going to be the companies issuing the flashiest press releases about building $500 billion mega mansions.
So who are the winners?
The winners will be the companies that can actually execute. Can you tie together the local power grid, the physical land, the NVIDIA Vera Rubin GPUs, and the massive capital, and actually deliver it on time?
So it's really an execution game now.
It is. The fundamental nature of the game has shifted from an asset ownership story to a capacity procurement story. And this is the crucial takeaway. When OpenAI decides to rent instead of own, they push the risk outward.
Out to their partners.
Exactly. That means the surrounding infrastructure companies, the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Oracles, they now share the massive potential profits of the AI boom, but they also shoulder the very real risks of OpenAI's cash flow issues.
Right. Going back to our restaurant analogy, if OpenAI's customers keep ordering tap water, it's Oracle and Microsoft who might be left holding the bag on those expensive building leases.
The data absolutely supports that risk. We recently saw Oracle's stock wobble significantly just on the mere rumors of OpenAI missing those revenue targets. Oracle is a high-reward play in this space, but because they are acting as the landlord, providing this infrastructure, they carry a high risk if the tenant's monetization slows down.
That paints an incredibly clear picture. It's a brilliant, agile move by OpenAI to protect themselves from becoming obsolete, but it completely changes how we should evaluate the tech giants supplying them.
It really does change everything.
If the smartest, most well-funded AI company in the world looks at the landscape and decides that directly owning physical infrastructure is simply too risky right now, what does that tell us about the hidden costs of the AI revolution going forward?
It's a huge question mark.
It is. When the dust settles, are the real winners going to be the brilliant engineers creating the AI, or are they going to be the landlords who hold the leases and the power cords? It's definitely something to think about as you review your own portfolio. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.